Who will be the next Bengal to enter the Hall of Fame? And what will the Bengals do with extensions? Coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast.
Yes. Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Houshmandzada, Jimmy Chase, Coach Jimmy Burrow.
Exciting time to be a Bengals
How do
fan.
you balance being a professional athlete and family obligation? These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time, man. Yeah. Shock the world.
Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. He is your co-host, Zim. Zim, what's up, bro?
What's up, world? How are we doing? I just had a couple tacos. I ain't had tacos in a while, so I'm feeling really good. I wish it was barbecue. I wish it was
Taco
Midwest.
Tuesday.
It is, yeah. On some natural, I think it's Ryan been out in California. It's just like, I just saw a taco truck and I just was like, hey, let's go in, let's do this. If it weren't for that, I would 100% be looking for some Midwest, some ribs or something like that. But I had a pretty good weekend, pretty eventful stuff. I saw Top Gun in 4DX. If you guys have never seen Top Gun in 4D, it's a different experience. It feels like you're flying the whole entire time. So if you've seen Top Gun, I would encourage everyone to go see it again in 4DX. It is really, really cool. I know my son enjoyed it. What's going on in your world? I know you've been battling people every single day of your life online. How's that working out for you?
It's working out well. I'm definitely getting my dubs up over there. Just took a L in the Jay-Z versus Jay-Z battle. He played PSA at the end, got me up out of there. So yeah, we're recovering. We're licking our wounds and stuff like that. But other than that, the family is doing their thing. We're getting ready for this 4th of July weekend, just like you guys. But I definitely got a dope call over the weekend from Willie Anderson, looking for Midwest best barbecue. So was able to connect him with them. They were able to take some pictures. He definitely loved the food, had good things to say about that. So I was glad that we were able to make that happen. But Willie was in town for some of the items that we're going to talk about on today's show, including the Jungle to the Hall. So we'll be talking about that, which players we feel like should be going into the Hall of Fame next. Then we'll get into some of the extensions, the potential extensions on who we think the Bengals should extend next. And then we'll talk about certain players and which ones should get more snaps coming up on today's show. All right, we're going to go ahead and bring in our friend of the show, Cincinnati Network member. He represents the new Wincy, G Money. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I promise my name is not actually G Money. My name is Garrett, and I don't go around introducing myself as G
Yes,
Money.
he does.
I probably should, honestly. It would make me seem cooler, but
just tell them that Ace and Zim stamped you, so it's all good. And they'd be like, bro, that's like you being fake, whatever. Just
and
be
if
like,
you
Ace
see
and Zim
him in the
stamped
streets, you refer to him as G Money. So when you see him somewhere around PBS, say G Money.
G Money only. I will only answer to G Money inside Paul Brown Stadium. But I am the host of the new Wincy show on the Wincinnati Network. It's an awesome show. I do a lot of Bengals stuff, but I also go into college, and college football is ramping up right now. Who's going to be the best team in the SEC in 5 years? Is Texas going to do anything with Arch Manning? This college football season is going to be really good. Alabama, my school right now. I am a student at Alabama.
I'm about to say, tell them what school you go to.
Yeah,
and get you a lot of haters this way really quick. They'll probably want to follow you just to hate on you.
Exactly. I'm sorry to all the people who are UC fans on the stream right now who are looking at me like I'm the worst person on earth for having 300 rush yards on you guys and not even having Bryce Young drop back. But I mean, we got Will Anderson coming back. He should have been in New York for that Heisman Trophy. Bryce Young won the Heisman last year and wasn't even the best player on his team. Will Anderson was taking laps around all the defensive backs last year. So we're going to go, and on that show we talk about college, Bengals, whatever you guys want. I'm just super excited to be able to have this opportunity, and thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. And that's why we have G Money on the show, because I didn't know that, because I don't watch college as much and I'm not in tune with it. So I'm glad to have someone like G Money that can bring me up to speed on these things, especially once we get into draft season. But kicking things off, fellas, we're going to talk about some Bengal stuff, primarily the Jungle to the Hall. Who do you think is going to be the next Bengal in the Hall of Fame? Because for me, I think that it's Willie Anderson, just based off of what we've seen him almost getting in last year. Hopefully, we can get him in this year. So my pick will be Willie Anderson. Zim, is there a pick that you have for this list as far as the Football Hall of Fame and who should be in there? Because I feel like all of these guys should really have a chance to be in there.
Drew Sample is not an option. No, okay.
No, he's not.
Because on
I mean,
Twitter,
you can go D. D is other, and you could insert Drew Sample, but I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't really like that pick, but that's not because Drew Sample doesn't have the numbers, guys.
Are
But
you a Drew Sample guy? Because Ace is president of the Drew Sample hater hive. Are you with the Drew Sample lens? What are they calling us guys these days? I ran into some this week on Twitter.
Not smart tight end analyzers.
All right, let me stop joking around. I gotta put my dog Willie in the hall. Like that's the guy. That's one of the most dominant offensive linemen in the history of football. I really respect him as a person. I think what he's done on the field is magnificent as well. 100%, my vote will go to Willie Anderson. So all the guys that are named, I mean, we did a whole. If you guys haven't seen it, Ace and his cousin and myself, I contributed to it as well. We did a whole documentary on Ken Riley too. Just going by what people tell me about Ken Anderson, I think in my order would probably be Willie Anderson, then Ken Anderson, and then Ken Riley. That will be my order for the next three.
Yeah,
G-Money, I don't know if you've ever seen any of these guys play.
Hey, I can still watch film. I'm not under a rock. I'm young. I'm not under a rock. But
okay,
I go
fair
and
enough.
I'm gonna switch your first two, and I'm gonna go Ken Anderson and then Willie Anderson,
Okay,
and then Ken Riley. Only because I think in our league right now, a lot of people are more attentive to quarterbacks, and left tackle like Willie Anderson was one of the best, just hands down, tackles in the NFL of all time. And the only other person to beat him out is already in the Hall of Fame and already played for the Bengals, in Anthony Munoz. And I see other people saying Ken Riley, and Ken Riley definitely has the numbers. I mean, top 5 in interceptions, but you can't overlook a guy who was consistently top 5 quarterbacks for almost a decade when you go back and watch those old Bengals and see how dominant they were, especially going into that 81 Super Bowl.
Those old
Hey, they're old in the grand scheme of the NFL also.
Okay.
Right. No, I can see that. I think for me, Ken Riley, I think the impressive thing about him is the fact that we talk about those old teams back in the NFL. They didn't pass much, right? Like, so the fact that he was able to end up top 5 in interceptions for that era was impressive, just in my opinion, just because they didn't pass much back then. But then you could say on the flip side, Ken Anderson was putting out some crazy numbers that you didn't see back then that often as well. So I think all of these guys should be enshrined in the next Pro Football Hall of Fame, if we're being real. But the way that things have gone from like a national perspective with the slights of the Bengals and just the perception that we're just not a good franchise has really held them back. And it's kind of silly that things like a small market team are reasons that you would keep any of these guys out of the Hall of Fame. But switching things up, getting more to the current kind of debate that we have, which guy would you guys extend first? Like, we got Von Bell here, we got Jermaine Pratt, Jonah Williams. Like, if you could only pick one, let's say the other two guys, let's raise the stakes. Let's say you're signing one, the other two guys are gone. Who are you putting all of your chips on? Like, not just who's going to get extended first. If you're only extending one of the guys from this list, who are you going with?
Actually, I am going to extend probably Jonah Williams, only because actually looking at my specialty, college football, going into all these drafts, it is going to be a huge defensive draft next year. And I think this year was still like a very offensive heavy draft because we moved, like, I'd say the Cincinnati Bengals and the LA Rams, the 2 Super Bowl teams were the 2 biggest teams to show that, okay, we can just have a big offense and run all over you defensively. And all these kids in college are coming into the NFL, and all these teams in the NFL are going to have to look and be like, okay, how are we going to stop a high-powered offense? And it's with a high-powered defense. And so going in and thinking about how you are already drafting 2 D-backs and you have young linebackers already outside of Jermaine Pratt, you can go and continue to build off of that defensive young energy and try to like breed them inside in your camp.
I think for me, I think it's Jonah just because for years we've been battling like let's fix the line. And I think part of anything in life that ends up being really good is like consistency, stability, words like that. And I just think Jonah, even if Deontay Smith is the heir apparent, or even if they go and draft another tackle or something, there's still a place on this line where Jonah Williams can coexist in that function, or he has movability if he had to. I just think that Jonah in some type of way is just more valuable because of positional value. I think Avon Bell could probably be available. I don't know the draft coming up, but that type of talent could be available as early as like second, third round of this upcoming draft. And I don't want to limit what he does because he's such a really good open field tackler, but he lacks some coverage stuff. So there's plus. I think I want them all, but I just understand like what's in front of us. I think that we'll probably out of those 3, I think we'll probably be able to retain 2 out of the 3. I don't see a world where all 3 get done unless Jermaine Pratt gets done for like 5-6 million. Like if they offer it right now, like they need to offer it this like right now. That would be my way to get it done.
Yeah, I think for me, this one is actually pretty tough because Jonah's going to be in a situation where he's going to command a lot of money. Like if Cam Robinson is getting 18 million a year, Jonah's getting some money. So for me, it comes down to how much is Jonah going to get for me. And if it's like 22 million or something like that a season, when I know that I have to pay T. Higgins, when I know that I have to pay Joe Burrow this offseason, I'm not so sure if that number fits. And so in this situation, especially now, if Jonah is able to finish this season healthy, that's another question mark for me because I don't want to be in a Ronnie Stanley situation similar to Baltimore, right, where he's a good player, but he's not playing. For me, I'm going to go in a different direction. And I feel like if you lose Jesse Bates, you can't lose Von Bell, right? And I think if that's the case, I think I'm going to go Von Bell here just to shore that up. Now, I do have Lyle Collins, so I do have something there. I do have a guy waiting in the wings in Deontay Smith, so I think that I could do something there. Potentially, I don't know who's going to be on the market, but if I just got Lyle Collins to sign up for peanuts to block for Joe Burrow, maybe I save some money by going in another direction. So that's what I'm thinking here. I'm going to take Von Bell on a cheaper deal, and I'm going to take the chance on maybe a tackle from free agency to fill that void and spend less money at the position. So with that being said, I think, Zim, you got an announcement for us?
Right. I'm sorry. I was going to transition to it.
Go ahead.
I see a lot of great smiles here. I just want to remind everybody we're working directly with Pierce Dental Group, who is located downtown in Cincinnati, Fountain Square. If you haven't done it before, you haven't reached out to him, please reach out to Dr. Pierce Dental Group. Free, 100% free consultation that they're giving. I got my consultation done. I'm hoping to get some work done so that I can enhance my smile. If you're a fan of a lot of guys on the team, you'll notice that a lot of guys are sporting brand new shiny veneers, all of the above, and just all above, like really great teeth. If you want to get that same service, that same quality, please hit up Pierce Dental Group, located in Fountain Square. You can go get you some ice cream downtown, whatever. But hit those guys up. Been around for a very, very long time. And we are happy to tell everybody about the greatness of Pierce Dental Group. Get with them.
No, that's facts. All right, getting back into it. Who are some guys that you guys would like to see get more playing time in 2022? I think for me, I'm going to go with Khalid Kareem. I think that he's a guy that has flashed at points in past seasons. I mean, I think we saw it. I always reference this Dolphins game. You guys are probably going to kill me for that, but he was an animal in that game. And there were some points, I think, his rookie season where he always got close to the quarterback, but didn't quite get him down. And so I think it's actually going to be Khalid Kareem for me, just because I think with us bringing in an Osai, with us having a Hubbard, and with us having a Hendrickson, I think he's the big key to seeing if we can have a foursome at that defensive end edge rusher position. And if they do, that would be nasty.
Yeah, that's true. I think I'm going to I did see somebody in the chat say Cam Sample, and I'm gonna take an other option. I'm gonna take an other option and go with Cam Sample. And I'm gonna go, I know this is kind of basic only because he was hurt last year, but I mean, when you look at Joseph Osai and his tape from college, and even like the half of a preseason game that he played, he wrecks lines. And if you have both of those players on the defensive side playing a lot more snaps this year, especially if you're going to have somebody go and block Trey Hendrickson all day, and then you go and you pull out Trey Hendrickson and they're like, oh, I got a break. And then you realize, never mind. No, I do not. And I think on the defensive side, I would take those two. And then offensive side, obviously Chris Evans, because he should have been balling all year. I'm going to say he should have started over Samaje Perine.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think everybody, if they left this up to like a Bengals poll on Twitter, everyone would say that Chris Evans should be starting over Samaje Perine.
For me, I'm going to go Chris Evans, because I think that in my mind, if I go back to some of my old mantras, your offense is your defense. If Chris Evans is like the final, infinity stone to this whole thing that unlocks this wish that everybody has, that they want to see the Bengals score 38 points a game and be like this monster powerhouse team. Chris Evans is the key to unlocking it. I went back and looked at his snap distribution and stuff. If he could just pass protect, I think he'll prove enough and they'll give him the job. I looked and he only played 10 snaps. I think Pro Football Focus had him at 7, but I went back and cut up like games and stuff like that, and I got a total of 10 snaps that they trusted him in pass protection. So what it's telling me is the staff is saying, if this guy can get on the field and protect on third down and be able to leak out or do any of those things, some of those wheel routes that we saw in the Lions game, all those different things, I think this isn't a dream or a wish of scoring 30-something points a game, because there was a period we were scoring 34 points a game. But I just think that they'll consistently do it. They'll need that. When Joe talked about the cover 2, if you guys haven't seen on the 513 podcast, our boy Eric just had a coverage. He just had a podcast where he talked about how the Bengals have to be able to beat cover 2 shells, looks, and stuff this season. Part of that is going to be a lot of underneath stuff and Joe taking his time with it, but getting Chris Evans out in the open field while all of these corners are now, following routes. Safeties are now, coming to the wide receivers that are flashing out across the field. Chris Evans unlocks a lot of that stuff, and I just think him being the dog that he is and killing it and being a threat on the field puts points on the board, and then allows guys like Joseph Osai, Sample, Kareem, all these guys to be able to pin their ears and go attack the pass rusher, because now I got you where I want you, and I know you want to throw the football because you're trying to catch up.
Right. All right. So the next one we'll talk about is who will lead the team in touchdowns. This one for me was a tough one because I'm looking at T, and T hasn't had a double-digit touchdown season yet, right? And I feel like that could be on the cusp. Then you got Jamar Chase. He's always going to be a prime person for that. And then you had Joe Mixon, who led the team last year, right? So for me, I'm gonna go Mixon here, because I have a feeling that once they get in the red zone, La'el Collins is going to be pushing a lot of guys into the dirt. And I feel like Mixon is going to eat off of a lot of those red zone opportunities. And he'll be the guy that can break some things and make some things happen. But what do you guys think as far as who's going to be the touchdown leader?
I'm going to go Mixon on this one too, just because I know that any short yardage, scenario they're giving the ball to Mixon. Like he's powerful enough, and it's just going to go that way. I think you're going to see a lot more from him, where they're going to be asking him to, catch more passes a little bit this year too. And from an all-purpose standpoint, like he showed like 1,500 yards all-purpose. Like part of what we got to do this year as a Bengals team is be able to sustain drives. And I just think that there's going to be more carries for him, more opportunities. I think a lot of that deep stuff that Jamar was like killing guys with, teams are really going to hone in on that. And we really want that too, because he's going to beat those doubles. He's going to make plays no matter what. But it's going to leave a lot of guys in favorable matchups, and you're not going to be able to crowd the box on any of these games. And if you do, then we go back to what old faithful, we catch Jamar on the go route. But I just don't think that many teams are going to be stupid enough to do it.
I don't know. Matt thinks Hayden Hurst. I might have to agree with him on that dark Hurst. That dark Hurst. I like that. The dark Hurst take.
After G Money gives his take, we could make something that we could put on tape and just say over or under on Hayden Hurst touchdowns. I just want to do that after you give your take.
Over under 6.5. That's my number right there, and I'm taking the over.
You're taking over.
I'm taking over.
I'm gonna go against the grain, and I'm gonna go under just to go against the grain. I think that's the sweet spot.
Okay,
but you didn't give your who you think is gonna lead the touchdown.
I wanted to give the over under first just to see what y'all thought, but I'm gonna.
He's going with Hayden Hurst, bro. He's going with the other. It's Hayden. I'm just kidding.
No. Because I promise you, we're gonna have 3 receivers with at least 10 touchdowns and 1,000 yards.
I like that.
It is very possible that our offense is averaging 35 points a game, only because like Jamar is only getting better. T. Higgins is only getting bigger and stronger and better, and I really think T. Higgins is probably going to lead us in that, only because, like you said, Zim, I mean, no teams are going to go and take away from, like, they're not going to be stupid enough to let Jamar go for 250 again. No team is going to let that happen. And
I don't think they're going to want to, but I think he probably is going to a couple of times, like, no matter what, though. Like, I feel like T. Higgins, we were schooling people online. They just don't know about T. Higgins too. I feel like that's a big thing too now.
That's true, and that's what I'm.
Like,
that's
not
what I'm
enough
saying.
People know about him.
Because nobody, like, he has top 20 receiver numbers and he doesn't get the top 20 receiver talk. Like, I hear more about DK Metcalf than I do T. Higgins, and I should not hear more about DK Metcalf than I do about T. Higgins. I'm going to be completely honest. But when you, I am going to put the over under on Joe Burrow passing yards, 4,500 and touchdowns, 38.
I mean, he had 44. He had 4,400 last year. I think
he's over. I think T is over.
I think the over under on Joe should be like 47, 4,800.
Yeah,
I think the minimum for T is. I think the minimum for T is at least 10 touchdowns this year. I really see that.
Yeah,
especially if he finishes this whole season healthy. Like, he got 6 with an injury plagued season, playing hurt.
There is a world that we lived in that, I know we're being optimistic about, like, everything's going to, play out and, but I really just think if you watch the Bengals play last year, they just never really dominated offensively, like, consistently for, like, a bunch of games. Like the Kansas City game, even with all those yards and stuff, the first half of that game was not good. You know what I mean? Like, when they put it all together, I just think that, like, 5,000 is not even a crazy number. And I've always dreamed about the wide receivers, the 3 for 1,000 yards is something I think is 100% real, especially if all these teams are going to go cover 2 shield. I just think Tyler Boyd should just be averaging like 82 yards a game. Like, I feel like that's a real number, and he should have a bunch of them.
Matt said 50. Matt is predicting a 50 piece touchdowns for Joey B.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think that's too crazy, but you're going to have, like you said, Tyler Boyd is going to be eating up slants right in the middle of the field. Like, I don't think anybody actually understands how.
They don't understand. They think that we're insane, guys. They think that we're insane that Joe Burrow is about to tear up the league with all of these weapons in the offensive line.
Let me play devil's advocate. Say everybody doesn't, have 100% health the whole season. That's one way. The other way is as we saw later in the season, they just start taking care of the football and they just say, hey, look, this other team can't outscore us and we're going to rely a lot on our defense. I can see a bunch of 22-13 games, like just like kind of like think about the playoff Raiders game. Like, don't y'all feel like they could have scored more points in that game and they just were kind of like,
I don't think it's gonna
that
happen.
Game. I hated
because
that game,
I think a lot of the reason for that personally was the offensive line. Like a lot of the stuff was rushed because of the offensive line. A lot of stuff didn't get to be developed because of the offensive line. A lot of those 3 and outs happened because of the offensive line. And I think not to just pin it completely on them because Joe has taken some sacks, but most of the time that's happened, we already know not only is he trying to find his read, he's also trying to get away from somebody in the pocket at the same time. So for me, I don't think it's too crazy to say that. And I feel like one of the narratives was that the Bengals peaked last year. And we all know from watching the entire season, like that offense was inconsistent. That wasn't even like them at their full power. So I think that is the key to unlocking it. And that's why Bengals fans are so excited, is because this offensive line with these weapons, and now they will be playing potentially a full 17 games. Like, let's not forget that either. They didn't play all 17 games last year. Like that Browns game was almost kind of like a preseason game. Like there were some starters in at the beginning, but then some guys weren't in there. So this offense is going to be crazy. And if they couldn't stop it like that with the constraints of a bad offensive line, how the hell are they going to stop it next season? They might say that we're crazy for thinking that, but like, I'm just talking about skill players, talent, and what was put out on the field. You guys talked about it. Jamar Chase put up 260 yards with a bad offensive line, right? With a bad offensive line, he did that. Joe Burrow threw for 1,000 yards in 2 games with a bad offensive line. What do you think he's going to do with a good one? Like, even if it's decent, like, it's just crazy.
We're going Super Saiyan this year. Bengals offense, Super Saiyan, Dragon Ball Z. We're going to the moon.
For sure.
There's, I think, it's really hard to have 3 dominant wide receivers and a dominant running back all on one offense, and then you put a top 5 quarterback. And I've been saying that for weeks over on my podcast. I don't know what people are talking about with the Bengals offense.
And what's the name of the podcast again, G Money?
The New Wincy podcast, and I, G Money, am the host of. And you guys can find me at New Wincy G on Twitter.
Follow that.
Zim and Ace branded me. I am G Money now. I will only be referred to as G Money. And you guys can also find the New Wincy Show at New Wincy Show on Twitter.
What's that Twitter? One more time. I'm gonna get Ryan to put it in the chat. I want everybody that's watching the show tonight, please make sure y'all follow the New Wincy Show.
It's at New Wincy Show, and then at New Wincy G for me. So anybody who's going and wants to check that out, please go ahead. I am so open to more arms.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you, G Money, and we're going to get into a word from our sponsor of the show. Willie Anderson was just there this past weekend. Midwest Best Barbecue.
Wings, and we got you with them Ono wings. Ono wings. They tell me that them Ono wings will make you do the grenade. Them Ono wings will make you do the grenade. Ono wings. Ono wings. Come and get them Ono wings. Ono wings, who they gonna beat them Ono wings? Ono wings, and we got you with them Ono wings. Ono wings, they tell me that the Ono wings will make you do the grenade. The Ono wings will make you do the grenade.
Shout out to Midwest Best Barbecue and Creamery. Please be sure to drop by and give them a visit. Brisket, fries, ice cream too. Don't forget about the ice cream. They got that going. If you're vegan or vegetarian, whatever that is, they have options for you as well. But Kevin Jones mentioned that Joe Burrow was also on a pitch count as well. So don't forget that, guys. No pitch count this season.
He got that brace off.
Facts. And the Honey Badger apparently said that Jamar Chase is Odell Beckham Jr. 2.0. It's crazy because when I first broke down Chase, when I did the cut the tape on, he really did remind me of a more athletic version of Odell Beckham Jr. when he was at LSU. Like as soon as I was watching it, it really reminded me a lot of it. So I could see why the comparison came up. Zen, what are your thoughts on the comparison? I don't think you really like that comparison a little bit as we were talking backstage, but just get your thoughts on the comparison. Do you think it's spot on? Do you think it's the wrong one, or what do you think?
I feel like, like any, I feel like he came from a good space and it was super positive vibes, and I'm here to applaud him on that, because it takes a real lover of football to admit that this dude just did work to your team, and like you live to fight another day. Everybody on Twitter doesn't live with those same principles, but that's another story. But in the element that he was speaking of and on his impact on the league and everything like that, I feel like that's the same. But Odell Beckham Jr. was never as fast as Jamar Chase. And Odell Beckham Jr. was never strong as Jamar Chase. Now, coming out, Odell was a better route runner. And I think throughout, his tenure, he's proved to be like one of the best route runners, like that the league has ever seen in a lot of different elements. And then his ability to like freelance and just come up with, like catches with late hands and stuff are things that I remember him with. So there are similarities in that way. They went to the same school, that too. But I've always thought like Jamar to me was like, when people would ask me, and I do remember you saying that about OBJ. Mm-hmm. To me, he always reminded me of like if Julio Jones was smaller, and then you take some of the stuff that I guess that Tebow Samuel does well now. Like if Jamar wanted to like truck people, he could, but I think he's smart enough to know like my best ability is to be available, right? So I think he has the power in his lower body that a lot of guys don't have. And Odell is a guy that has a lot of lower body power as well too, but I just think it's very different. Like that dude is like Saquon Barkley, like tree trunk, lower body balance is just very different. It's really even hard to say a comp or whatever, like, that I could think of. That was the thing coming into the draft. Remember we had Charlie on there, and I think he told me, he was like, yeah, like a smaller Julio. Because people would ask me that, especially early on when I kept on being very adamant about we need Jamar Chase. They was like, bro, like who is this game like? I'm like,
and I think for me, I think another part of it is when the last time we saw a rookie receiver come in and just take over the league, it might have been Odell. Like a lot of people got to think back to when Odell first came in the league, when he made the catch and all of that. Like he was kind of widely viewed as the best receiver in the league, even when there was AJ Green, Calvin, and all of like when he came in, he just immediately became the face. So I could see that comparison where people are like, this young dude just came in. He killed everybody like that on a pace that we've never seen before. And he's looking like I don't think it's far-fetched to say that a guy like Jamar Chase could be the face of the league. I think we already see the young kids out there doing the gritty. Like we talk about Madden and stuff like that. And I think that you could either have Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow on the cover of Madden. I think they're both, their ceiling is both that high for them to do it. And I think that may be another comparison that he's making with a young receiver taking over the league, just like Odell Beckham Jr. did.
And maybe that's the way he took it. But you know what's so crazy? And somebody just said in the comment, and I don't have it on, but if anybody's ever seen my Uno chain, on the back of it says 101, live for your, like it has some other messages on it. But the number one thing that it says on the back of it is 1 of 1, because I felt like
there's only one like, Uno.
There's only one. He's going to be the first Bengal to ever sport the number 1, and he's going to be the last Bengal to ever wear the number 1. It's already written, and I said that on draft night, and it's been like that way. So I just think that I know it came from a good space, so I'm not faulting him. So I think that was dope that he thought like even his impact or whatever. So it's all good with me.
So some media guy, who we will not name because we don't want to give him any free promotion, says that the Bengals should bring in Timothy Tebow to replace Joe Burrow. Was this guy a Steelers fan? I don't know. Oh, well, maybe even if he is a Steelers fan, he might want to watch out because, Tim Tebow did a little something to the Steelers. If you know your history, you know what I'm talking about.
Ooh.
What would it take for you to consider bringing in Timothy Tebow to play quarterback?
Wink Martindale would have to threaten to be my defensive coordinator.
I think catastrophic event for the Bengals to call on Tim Tebow. I would have to say like the Bengals are moving out of the city of Cincinnati. That is the only way that I feel like Timothy, unless they said you have to take Timothy Tebow to keep the Bengals in Cincinnati, that is the only event that I would do, that I would settle for. There's only one way. There's no way that I'm calling Tim Tebow up. Now, if I needed to get in a time machine and I wanted to go back and play the Steelers in the playoffs, yeah, I'm bringing out Timothy Tebow because you know what? They lost to Timothy Tebow. Don't let Steelers fans forget that. They lost to Timothy Tebow. Tim Tebow.
Bro, you know I'm gonna use that the next time I go to
Dude couldn't hit the backside yard of a barn.
I know that in the back of my head, but I always try to be like fair. And I'm like, as we get closer to the season, I'm gonna take the gloves off and I'm gonna pull the Tim Tebow out my bag one day. But the dude that said it had a lot of political stuff behind it, so don't take the Tim Tebow thing as this guy was talking about as it pertains to sports. It's all agendas, and some are hidden. Some people are blatantly telling you what side they're standing on or whatever. So it's all crazy out here sometimes.
Wow, our guy Sean just said that he'd take Ryan Finley over Tebow, and I would have to agree. I would take Vanilla Vic over Tim Tebow any day of the week. He got to win over the Steelers too.
I would too. Who would you take, Jeff Driscoll or Josh Johnson?
Jeff Driscoll or Josh Johnson? Neither. Who was that dude that we had? Who was that dude we had that was competing with them that had the bigger arm out of all of them? And then we ended up like never putting them in. We never got to see him. Nah, he was like 6'6".
Oh, and he went to the Patriots. Yeah.
Yes.
Jake Dogala.
Jake Dogala. Give me him. Give me him. I'd take him over all of them. He never got a chance. He should have got his chance to play. I would take him for sure.
Give me Jeff Blake. Let's go. That was the
Jeff, that's not even fair. Jeff Blake was a Pro Bowler.
Nah, I just want to talk about Jeff Blake. Jeff Blake, if anybody you know is listening and watches, Jeff, come back on. If y'all don't know, we had a Jeff Blake
Vince
show.
Young
that was a good show.
Off of the couch right now over Tim Tebow.
You said Vince Young?
I would take Vince Young off of the couch right now over Tim Tebow. He won Rookie of the Year. They just pulled Tebow off the couch last season. Okay. I would take Vince Young right now off the couch than Tim Tebow right now. There's no way.
I'll take RG3.
I take RG3 too.
I'll take Cap over Tebow.
I take Cap for sure.
Hey, bro, I'm not a Tebow guy. I'm the wrong guy to even ask that. Like, I just never bought into that.
Yeah, bro. If you ever have watched, just go back and watch some of those highlights. Not the whole game. Watch the Tebow highlights and see how bad that they are. Like, guys were like it was like me and Zim throwing a football at somebody. That's basically what it would look like.
Just a quick reminder. We're going to have Rhett Lewis come on our Thursday show. We're going to be talking Saints versus Bengals as well. So we got a really good get on that one. And I'm really, really excited about that. Another thing I'm very, very excited about, and I wanted to tell you this too. I got my stuff set up for Bengals versus Saints. You know, I was telling you about fans of Cincy the other day. Bengals versus Saints. I will be in the building. If you guys need to figure out a way to get your package deal together, this is another thing.
We're gonna be there.
Tailgate, drinks, food, everything all included. Fans of Cincy. Go to fansofcincy.com. Go follow them on Twitter. I'm gonna do a contest probably later on this week too. So if you didn't know, last week we did a contest with Eric with the 513 show where we gave Joe Burrow slides. We gave that out today. The winner was announced. So later on this week, keep on watching the Wincinnati Pod. Follow the Wincinnati Pod on Twitter. We're going to make another one for fans of Cincy because I do think it's important that we kind of link up and get to some of these games and tailgate together with your food and your drinks and everything all included.
Facts. So thank you guys for listening to the Wincinnati podcast.
Wincinnati.
Yes.
Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Houshmanzada, Jimmy Chase, Coach Jimmy Burrow. Time to be a Bengals
How do you
fan.
balance being a professional athlete and family obligation?
These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time, man.
Shock the world.